can yap all day, but we have casters to bring you the action for this matchup. Reason Gaming versus RAD group stage. Playoffs are on the line. Let's get into it.
All right, thank you so much, Vod. Let's get stuck in. Our first map, as always, domination, randomly selected. This is neutral ground lemon, and we have ourselves a divergence already in our band. One team wants to play the Elsa, the other team might have to play the Gambit.
Ooh, that's the big thing we're talking about. Do you want to face a Gambit team or an Elsa team? It's not just Gambit you're getting rid of. It's Rogue and other important team-ups around it. But hey, Reason, can I cope here for a second? Reason's
Absolutely.
best look was on Krakoa. Reason fans, I got you. Because they went up against Vision, and they went all the way to round 3 on Krakoa. So that's really exciting. But it was also playing with DRP, and that's with that Magneto that we love to see from it.
A first person from a Mantis here. This probably means that Reason are going to go for a triple strategist lineup. This might be all about maybe just hyper-pocketing Ballast, but given that Elsa's already been banned away, you can see Ballast probably going to be hovering over here on the sidelock. This is Ballast's signature hero. Back when they used to play for Alcazia, Ballast was a real standout on that roster. They're protecting Ultron as well. This is a very strange draft, but Reason Gaming, like I said, they're just all in on this triple strategist here. This is all about giving Ballast double damage boost, both from the Mantis and from that imperative patch that comes through from Ultron. And like we said in the pre-show, this is just all Ballast all the time.
And Reason are that unique team. They really like even playing Jeff so much with a Gambit, no Venom. By the way, both of these teams don't really lean on the Venom dive as much as others do, but you get away from the dive so much on Krakoa domination. Got another Ultron protect, so especially seeing Ultra, these triple strategist lines, as a more offensive variation of it. You could see it with usually a Mantis, or depending on what the third choice will be, sometimes an invisible woman. It really depends on what the teams want, and I love this meta on how diverse it is.
Oh yeah, we have plenty of diversity here. And that's going to be shown out well. Noctis going to be the one to swap over onto that strategist role from the usual duelist as expected. Ballast currently hovering the Psylocke. I'm surprised we didn't see a ban over onto the Psylocke after getting rid of the Elsa for the side of RAD, because that would have taken away one of Ballast's other hyper carries here, but maybe you're a little bit, you're just hedging your bets, thinking we can deal with the single duelist that is the, the Hulk's coming out as well from Lugia. I'd love to see this.
Yeah, he's playing it again. It was so fun to see how him and Ducky on the Groot at the time paired so well at trying to own that space, and you didn't get to see too much White Fox from this RAD team. Still kind of figuring out what strat line we want to go with. What is going to be the triple strat variation with that Ultron? And Ducky is going to be on the Magneto, but Smash is the one on the Elsa, and Ballast is stuck on the Psylocke. We also like to see him on Daredevil as that secondary when Elsa isn't available.
2, 1.
All right, doors opening. Let's see how the first one goes. One of the things I really want to talk about here with Passo in particular for Venom is he's great at what we call a soft dive. Just going in with their quick frenzied arrival and then instantly getting out after forcing a resource. Not really putting much of their HP on the line to claim that initial space.
Passivo, when he does get to play, it's either Deadpool or the Venom, and he is going to be the one to lean on, where usually Forever is the one as that secondary Vanguard who's on the Angela, but we'll have to get all the support from DRT, I should say, with these bubbles, but that's a great first pick from Reason.
Hugo going to start with, now DRP's looking after Lugia as well. There's plenty of healing going their way from the triple strategist of RAD, but initially Reason Gaming just claim all this space. It's the perfect pick to get, and DRP's mastery of Magneto is going to be what grabs it.
So much damage boost when you have the Ultron and the Mantis, and it's gonna make diving onto a Mantis very unfun when you're just gonna suffer from narcolepsy. But Reason are not suffering from having a point. Little passive dive from Passivo, and RAD are working up to some important ultimates. Mainly just poking things down, protect the Elsa composition. I'm looking to see Mash show us how strong the White Fox is after the pass.
Is it down to Butterfly? happening. Oh, I think that was supposed to miss that out of it. Likely from the charm of the White Fox. I imagine Matthew is responsible for that one. Nico's going to Ultron, making sure that Lugia is going to be healed up. He's going to be answered on the other side, coming in from Nocta as well. So there's plenty of healing to go around for everyone. Remember, that burns through blue health rather quickly. And so the Venom is going to be in a very difficult position. DRP needs to anchor down on the point, dragging in Ducky, who has to bring up their metallic curtain to dodge some of the incoming fire. And now Lugia drags everyone forward, ready to go absolute world breaker mode.
DRP is somehow still alive. The Apex Predator thrown out by Smash, and Reason have not fallen yet. The Venom chops down DRP, Meteor M's, and RAD are fighting tooth and nail to get the point back.
Crazy Kitty, big plays already. The World Breaker ready to break down the worlds of Reason Gaming now. Kit Kat going to be continuously pummeled away from the fight while channeling that Soul Resurgence, grouping together to try and supplant Ballast, and indeed even on the second attempt of a Dance for Butterflies, there's no value to be found. The Ducky, for now, just going to keep it a little bit calm. Doesn't want to move forward into this, but 82% already for Reason. They're running out of time.
And it just takes one more fight to win the round. And like I said, this is probably one of Reason's best maps. They forced it all the way to 3 in their very first match of Ignite. RAD, though, will have to lead that charge here very soon. Lugia is getting active, but removing these anchors from Reason has been the biggest challenge for RAD. They need a convincing fight win. Are they going to flank with Lugia? There needs to be more commitment than just Lugia going after the strategist. And Reason Gaming, they're not giving this up.
Smash control on the off angle here could be imperative. Lugia's even got damage boosts as they just continue pummeling down DRP, who can't stand up to the verdant fists of fury that are given over by Lugia. And at 99%, that's going to be the flip.
And now RAD have to play flawless from here on out. Expect Ducky to be the one that anchors that objective, to stay alive, to stay at the front. And as soon as that health drops, expect that Meteor M to come out. But Nocta could even start draining those health pools with the ultimate. And Reason Gaming, they're in a comfortable position to build up towards those ults and just pile it onto the point. RAD, though, you need to see Lugia take some initiative, as he always has, and he gets pulled, and that's what you gotta be careful for. And he does escape to his team.
Rage of Ultron to try and open it up. This is going to make sure that Passo can stay in for a while longer as well. Down into banner form. The Apex Predator shown it's actually peeled for with the Meteor M from Ducky to make sure they could deliver everyone back to the Elsa. But it seems no casualties going to be confirmed here. Passo demands an imperative patch drone worth of healing from Nocta, and Ducky stands alone. So much of a healing Ethan. DRP drops a big one on Lugia right there. And that is going to be a forced re-engage. Oh, the double strategist ultimate. It's going to be answered by only one from Seijiro. Ballast hangs out above, waiting to try and destroy that nine-tailed fox form, and Nox is getting even more, just floats imperiously above it all, but it's far from magnanimity, which is given over by the Ultron. A flight away from Luna, but directly into the hands of Ballast, and Lugiago might have to try and stand up to all of this alone, as Ducky has brought it on up. Lugiago with a quick reset, and RAD lose out on the first point. What a show from Reason!
What a showing from Reason to be able to stall out these fights to the point where you're at 99% before the flip goes through. RAD are running triple strats. They only have one duelist. All the eggs are in the Smash basket, and they are the ones who got Smash. Smash was not part of that final fight, got picked off, and then, like you pointed out, they had the double strat ultimates of Fox and the Luna Snow, so that's just not something you want to really mix up. You want to try and stagger that, and the Reason we're able to match strat for strat and able to stall out until eventually the damage scales tilted in Reason's favor. Watch out for what Reason can do on Krakoa, but despite going to round 3, Reason did drop this map in the past, so it's about not always how you start, but how you finish.
Yeah. Lugia giving up the Hulk. Heading over now onto a Venom, seeing the way that Passo was getting here, especially the slows off the back of those cellular corrosion tentacles. Really good at making sure that disengage can be a little bit too hard to manage. As we roll out here, Ducky's once again going to be leading the way, but can't afford to get surrounded again.
But Lugia I think wanted to be able to go deeper with his dives. I like this Venom choice, and there is so much verticality on this map. Already the dive initiated from Passiwo, but you don't have, you do have a Magneto for Passiwo, but not for, and also for Lugia. But Crazy Kitty has banked this one up, lets it rain to support Lugia, who's been exiled, so he's almost saved by this moment, and the cap has almost gone through for RAD.
Yeah, this is dangerous times here for DRP. Needs to try and stay on the point, but you better believe a lot of the pressure is going to be going the way of that Magneto. Quick pop in here from Passiwo to keep this one contested. Lugia Goats already used their own symbiotic resilience. And finally, it seems like Reason Gaming is stepping up to the plate on the point. Might have to see a Rage of Ultron here just for that burst healing over onto a Venom. Smash Nez to be Apex Predator in the back pocket, knows exactly what they want. In comes the Feast of the Abyss, and boy is he feasting. Ballast for Char Drill on top of it just for a little bit of added flavor. And boy, it's difficult to try and take out Match in that Fox form. It is going to be easy to cap the point with RAD sent scurrying away.
And it's been so important that RAD do not have a Mantis for this triple strat. You only really have that strong CC of the Luna Fox to stop these Venom dives. Like, yes, White Fox can delay it a little bit, but the sleep is what's been so critical for Mantis. And that means Smash is not being peeled well enough. He had that Apex Predator for that fight, but was never in a position where he could find a good lane to throw that down. But this may be the perfect moment for Smash, depending if the pins line up.
Spectral Surge, unable to try and get the charm there onto Passiwo. It will interrupt the symbiotic swing if it can be found, and controlling the high ground here is super important for Smashnez, given the pathing of the Glartrox in towards the back. That is a huge Feast of the Abyss. The entire backline has had its healing impact debuffed. Up comes for Sanctuary. It's going to be an exchange between the Magnetos who both pelt each other with Meteor Rem, but now it's down to Crazy Kitty to try and make something work here with the Rage of Ultron, and on top of it, we've got the Nine-Tailed Fox form as well, heading in towards the back line. But once again, it's real value from Seijiro. The Novalet with Noctiva comms may well have turned around into a bad position as there's so much healing, and Vertigo's able to outdo them all with a singular use of the Fate of Both Worlds. Ballast caught with a Spectral Surge. Now Crazy Kitty easily able to just rain Encephalo beams down upon Reason's defense. A quicker flip this time. The Passiwo is going to exchange HP for a little bit more percentage.
Yeah, having that later Fate of Both Worlds, as you pointed out, the strategist ultimates that kept RAD sustaining and kept the fight in their favor at the end. And thank goodness they flipped it at the around 70% mark, because this is how Reason Gaming won that first round on Cradle. The way that they're able to stall out to 99%. Now RAD have a chance, but they don't have any ultimates. It was a big investment. Look at how Passiwo is going to kick off this fight with his, and Ballast choosing to go to the Phoenix. This is going to be what rains down hell on this team.
An Alpha Strike once again, but no casualties are found, and DRP will stand alone. The healing too difficult to get there, and a living bullet just instantly placed into the back of DRP. Lugia exchange on the other side, but now Passiwo has to kind of solo Vanguard this one. They can't pull that flip. Oh, so many members here, including the Magneto. RAD have let the points slip through their fingers. Unforgivable plays, because now Ballast can just claim all this space, and he's in absolute heaven. No one can really do anything as he just rains down fire from above.
Every stagger here is going to be critical, and Ballast's mechanics are on full display. He needs to be pressured off this high ground. Look at Lugia to soft dive and deal with that. But a few more seconds for Reason Gaming to claim before they steal away a map 1 from a favorite. RAD also have never lost a map, so this would be insane.
Oh, Crazy Kitty trying to take it into his own hands here. Don't want to lose the map, and it starts with the Rage of Ultron. A quick charm onto multiple players for Spectral Surge. Gets its value as well, so follow up with the Fox's Marbles. DRP and Passiwo instantly down. The meat is gone, and that's a quick retake for Reason Gaming.
A lot of effort ahead of RAD to catch up in the score, though, and any misstep will be the end of this map, and it is a best of 3, so there's not a lot of second chances you're gonna get, but the Apex Predator is gonna be even better for RAD to defend with, and you have 2 Vanguard ultimates, so Reason Gaming having to fight into this. I want to see these Flyers take control of the high ground to get Nocta in a best position to let his Rage of Ultron unleash, and Strat ultimates in favor of Reason Gaming, so if they can get control of this point, the sustain will be in their favor.
Okay, Rage of Ultron from a little bit further away. That's going to tear through the health of the Venom there. A quick teleport away. Smart play. Is going to be moving quickly over on to that run. And so Nocta just able to continue pounding down from above. We do have a pause coming in here, but we can quickly talk about RAD and what they are going to be able to have to play with here. They've got 2 strategist ultimates, both the Kumiho Unleashed and the Fate of Both Worlds, so I think that they are going to be able to pull through on a defense here, which has got so much sustainability.
And so much damage from the Reason Gaming side. They've just activated the Mantis ultimate, so I'm looking at Ballast to end this once and for all. And man, we're already getting a shakeup, guys, in our very first match. Vaughn, like, Reason Gaming are just this close to a win.
I literally can't believe it. I think, like, if they do win this series, the first interview question I have in my mind is, like, how did you guys come up with this composition? We saw a little bit of it from Shikigami, but now we see it here coming out to play from Reason Gaming, and I think a lot of teams are realizing, oh, this actually works really well. The high ceilings that we see for this specific map, it works pretty decently too. There's some decent positioning that you can have with the Ultron behind, like, the stumps on this specific sub-map as well, so it's pretty great to see the strategy that's coming out from this kind of pick and ban line that we saw from them that's unorthodox compared to what we saw before, especially the Venom play. I love that coming out from Reason Gaming, and they almost went for the ban on RAD, but I think the Invis ban was actually really big here, Lemon.
Absolutely, and also the difference of having a Mantis to no Mantis, the double damage boost from Reason. You're putting all the eggs in the Ballast basket, and man, is he delivering with these picks, and Reason only need 1 fight win to give RAD their first map loss of the preseason, which is, I would say, unexpected. But like I was saying, Vod, earlier on, that the best version of Reason we saw was when they went to round 3 against Vision on this map. So I had an inkling that maybe the chaos of domination really favors Reason.
Yeah, domination, I mean, they've done pretty well so far on that, so it does look good. I'd like exactly the ban line that we had from them here. It's also interesting, too, that they focused on, you know, the Gambit to make sure that that was taken out of the equation. Whenever they've banned Gambit, they've done somewhat well, so it worked out at the start there, and hopefully, for RAD's sake, depending on how this map goes, they can figure things out for map 2, but it makes sense why they wanted to make sure that their network connectivity is as good as it can be for this map here, like day, because this is down to the wire between these 2 teams.
It's down to the wire, that much is for sure. The thing that I've been looking at here is, like, the new combo from Reason. We're used to, in Pro Rivals, seeing a lot of Endgame Inferno, Phoenix Ultimate, and Magneto's Meteor M comboed for burst damage.
That's true.
But the interesting thing here is that because we're not dealing with too much overhealth among the strategists that RAD have, we're seeing a Feast of the Abyss and Ensong Inferno combo, which is quite interesting.
It's really good.
Feast of the Abyss, it does a lot of percentage health damage, as well as applying that healing debuff,
yes,
which against, like, a huge amount of healing that we're expecting from a team like RAD that has such, like, a Lunar Snow for a Fate of Both Worlds, it does seem like it's able to try and break through those strategist ultimates and find the casualties. So a little bit of innovation here from Reason Gaming, and you love to see that kind of innovation be rewarded with results.
I was also curious, like, when we would get to see this combination from other teams in terms of, like, the Luna Snow and the White Fox combo, the Luna Fox, or whatever they want to call the duo there as well, between these 2. But, I mean, having that charm, I really just want to call back to the charm that we saw happen on Ballast right as they were using the Dance of the Butterfly in point 1. Like, that was insane. I still can't believe they pulled it off. I thought just the ult just somehow didn't work for some reason, but no, it's just the skill of these RAD players. And I feel like if they use those charms a little bit better, it might work out to their advantage here, but it's a tough spot because, again, having the Mantis damage boost, I think, is a really big difference between the potential of, like, getting your ults up a lot faster, but also confirming those KOs, especially with Ballast swapping from the Psylocke to the Phoenix. They've just been able to be so much more lethal, it feels like, and not get focused down as much as they were, Jen.
Yeah, and you pointed out kind of the charm of the White Fox and how it canceled that Dance of the Butterflies in the round 1. I think Leg Day spotted that, so very exciting, but also exciting to get back into games, so it was nice talking to you, Vod, but we have a map to finish, or a map to extend, and we're right in the middle of the fight, Leg Day.
Right back into the thick of it. One fight to rule them all, and Vertigo's ready to dance their way through it. VFX Predator in towards the back grab. Seijiro, beautiful bubble coming on through. Excellent peel that is done over here by DRP, but it seems like Paseo has not been able to get value out of their own Feast of the Abyss. Is knocked away from their victims, and so the corrosive tendrils break away. Now looking into a backline once again. RAD double stunned by the incoming flames of a Phoenix up towards the sky. Smash Smashers in the middle. The elephant gun, the monster piercer tears through Reason's vanguards. And now it has to be down to Password to try and stay here in the midst of all this. Crazy Kitty hides behind the log while channeling the Rage of Ultron to just try and get that passive healing and keep them in the fight. Running out of overtime, and Password's too high to get there. We're going to go to a... Wait, that was Rad. Oh, okay. Rad's able to grab it. Reason Gaming, they'll go to a map 3 here.
Now we're going to Cradle once and for all. Reason Gaming making this a marathon, not just a sprint, but smash with the beautiful picks at the end turned it in their favor. Crazy Kitty surviving with the Rage of Ultron, got so dangerously low, but played around the cover of the stumps that surrounded the objectives so well. Rad scrapping away. But now this point in particular is a little bit less forgiving for those flyers, not as much cover, and it depends on where you want to take that initial fight, on the high ground or towards the point. It also takes some time for the point to unlock, but we've really set 2 different flavors of compositions. And Lugia, don't tease me with the Emma. I'd be so excited because the Emma is so strong at peeling for the soft dives that the Venom brings you.
Oh, cheeky early portal play here from Ducky. Who is the mugging target? Kit Kat's the likely one here. You can put it in the doorway to try and guarantee that someone's walking on through, but nice, it seems to be avoided. DRP is who they want rolling on through with the diamond form already, but straight away in comes the metallic barrier, and it seems like Reason Gaming would be able to slip through the clutches of Rad. They were expecting this one already, and now Rad, they only have low ground control. They need to rotate around.
I like that Rad are using the Cloak and Dagger too. If you're going to play this more frontline brawl, then the Terror Cape is just going to be able to maximize damage, because that's what Rad felt like they lacked and why these fights seemingly go on forever. They want to end it once and for all, but the picks from the sky is what I'm talking about. These flyers don't stand a chance against Valis.
Yeah, the double damage boost on Ballas is just absolutely deadly. Mash has gone too far. All out of Tails, all out of Hope, all out of Friends as well. While Seijiro is down, there are still 2 strategies to try and play with. An aggressive play from a Cloak and Dagger is not enough to save it. First cap goes to Reason.
And you're able to build up to almost, 4 ultimates from the side of Reason. We've talked about Venom being that setup guy, and Passio was proving that Reason Gaming this could be the meta for them if they keep leaning on this leader. And Ballas can finish it with the combo. We'll see if they opt for that, but being able to defend, these are just some tough choke points that Rad have to get through. Not even excluding the fact that Ballas is off-angling and being a nuisance.
Yeah, Ballas over here with a double pocket. Just so hard to try and remove, but seeing that Lugia Goat is beginning to encroach upon their territory, they move over to the low ground. Homework's been done here by Rad, but it is going to be shut down pretty quickly as Nocta starts the Rage of Ultron. Lugia Goat trying to disengage a beautiful pull from Seijiro. This definitely seems to be one of their specialities. You can see the Ensong Inferno is ready to go at a moment's notice as well, but for the moment, Reason Gaming have no real reason to have to commit to this fight. Crazy Kitty's going to give them one. The Rage of Ultron is going to tear through Passio's overhealth in short order, and both Vanguards going to have their health chunked down. Smashnez is gone. The carry has been slain, and now from the sky, Ballas rains down fire, and Vertigo is the direct target.
And this is 85% for Reason Gaming, and Rad's backline is in trouble. There's not much of a commanding frontline presence from Ducky to protect these strategists. You cannot be having them get picked off like this. And when it rains, it pours. It's a bleed into a hemorrhage. 95+% Reason Gaming looking to close out.
Smashnez stands alone. Ballas burns them down. Reason Gaming take the map. What a coup over Rad. There was no way anyone predicted this.
I certainly didn't, but this was looking like the strongest map in their pool, and they were able to perfect their execution and go the distance. Of course, Ballas, none other than him as the MVP, the Phoenix, the off-angling, the mechanics to hit all of these headshots to get the picks in their favor. And he also just had a stronger Vanguard presence from Reason, and they were able to keep their backline so far out of reach from Rad that they weren't able to tilt the scales when it came to the resources.
With Pasuo being able to put out so much more damage here than Lugia, I think is one of the more telling stat lines. Just able to get so much more out of these soft dives. And honestly, the big difference maker of that was Seijiro. Seijiro was hitting every single force physics. Every time Lugia tried to get out, they were getting pulled out of their symbiotic swing and then was in a very difficult position without any resources to really keep them up, because so many of them were being given over to Smashnez to try and match Ballas's ability to play those off angles. But the real difference maker, as Vod pointed out in our break, was that they have the Invis ban. So when Ballas is playing these off angles, they get the Guardian Shield, and they can easily outpoke Smashnez, who has a lot of trouble breaking through that barrier.
And just this map, too, is not as friendly for the Groot, and Ducky has just so much more time on that, and we've seen him on the mag in the past, but just wasn't able to be that confident Vanguard at the front. And Mag can do a considerable amount of damage, but just to even start pressuring those strategists, and I felt like Reason Gaming's strategist line was just a lot more well protected. They have less deaths as a result. Like, Seijiro only has 1 death, so that is enough evidence for me that they were just more survivable throughout.
Yeah, falling so many fewer times. Let's have a quick look at our replays here, and of course it is going to be filled with plenty of Reason Gaming's plays. DRP and Ballas, well, DRP at least knows so many of the RAD players very well after previously being part of that chopped roster, so definitely has some insight into how their comms work, maybe how they want to try and play these triple strategist approaches, and likely was briefing the remainder of the team.
This has been so exciting. Reason Gaming get to kick off our series, and this is only a best of 3. We never got to see what Rad's map pool is going to be like in terms of picks, because they've never lost a map, and the ball will be in their court to figure out where Rad want to go, so you guys won't want to miss it. We'll see you after the break.
Clear the way! Feel the pull! Disappear!
This is why you want to tune into Marvel Rivals Esports on the Marvel Rivals Twitch and YouTube channels. We're back with the desk here on Vodable for those who might have forgot. But Lemon Kiwi and Leg Day, we had such an insane map 1 on Krakoa. Yes, it was a C9. I went back through the time stream and was able to consult the VOD and see, yes, unfortunately, Ballast did not touch at the last moment, but it didn't matter. 100% to 0 in that last one, Lemon.
Oh my god, dropping 10 final hits and 32,000 damage. Ballast stood above the rest, and that's why when you run the triple strat, you need someone who can go X Games mode, and Ballast did just that. Was able to also adapt his hero choice from the Sylar going to the Phoenix, and able to rain down at a safe distance away from the dive, which already sort of a compositional change from the RAD side, where they usually play the Groot on Krakoa, going now from the Ducky to the Mag. Was that adjustment? Because Groot does play very different than the Mag in terms of how aggressively forward you can be.
I think that's a big thing to note here too, is especially the compositions. Like RAD, they didn't have their comfort zone, as you talked about with the Groot. They didn't have the Mantis to be able to use the team up with that as well, and also have the damage boost. I think that was a big difference maker here, but I think the Ultron from Nocta Leg Day, we never saw this from them in week 1. They were just keeping that in the back shelf, ready to pull it out at a moment's notice.
I mean, it fits Nocta's hero pool fairly well. Nocta's biggest talent, I think, is their hit scan aim. Previously played quite a bit of Hela in previous patches, as well as a little bit of the a Psylocke, but that's not really going to be in their hero pool while Ballast is on the team. They're just tough truths, but the Ultron definitely seems to favor them quite a bit, as well as being really good with the timings on their buffs for Ballast. Obviously, being a duelist player, they know the best times to be able to allocate over those resources to Ballast and support those off angles, and also very survivable. We rarely saw them get caught in the range of Ultron, which is a fairly vulnerable strategist ultimate compared to the other strategists, because you're only getting 50 healing per second, and of course, your hitbox is quite large as Ultron, especially with all the drones around you. So being able to stay alive and keep kicking during that and get the full value out of it was really important to the overall survivability of Reason.
And we're talking about value of duelists, right? We're talking about how great Ballast is, and we wish we got to see more of Smash. But he had the most deaths in the lobby at 7. So I think there would have been so much more out of RAD if we could have seen Smash more, but he was so focused down.
Well, we're going to Central Park for map 2, and you talked about this, Lemon, that we didn't get to see RAD actually pick their own counter map yet, because they've been undefeated until that first map loss that they just got dished out from Reason Gaming. Central Park, I mean, we've seen so many times, but I feel like this composition actually works pretty well here as well.
Yeah, RAD are very good at this map. They went up against Crownfall, and they had this double strat line with the Loki and the Invis. They even played some Punisher, some Elsa. It was really unique, but hopefully we get to see Ducky back on some comfort picks with the Groot, but is that going to be allowed? Because he'll still play it without the Mantis, but I don't know, maybe we could see more changes out of RAD. There's been also a week between the last match.
So we saw in Americas, at least, that there was an Ultron ban at one point. Leg Day, you've always been, you know, the simple answer guy for me, and that's all I need from you on this one. Do we see the Ultron ban come out?
Longer answer here. It depends on how much RAD have internalized the trauma from that map, because it was a very weird set of bans from Reason. Going for that first protect on Mantis over either Gambit or Elsa. Gambit was the option that they had available there. Do we see an early ban on the Mantis from RAD? I think is more pressing, because the Ultron, it is good, but it functions best with the Mantis, so you can get that double damage boost. I'd be more interested to see if RAD go for, if they get the first 2 bans, where they get the double stop before we get a protect, if we see maybe an Elsa ban to start off with, followed by, instead of maybe a Gambit, maybe the Mantis ban, knowing that it's such a huge part of Reason Gaming strategy. And I imagine later on in the draft, especially if Mantis is secured, we are going to see an Ultron ban. And
I just worry about Reason Gaming here, but maybe not so much, because when they did go to Central Park, it was against Virtus Pro, and we don't want to talk about the defense and the amount of minutes that Virtus Pro put on them. But someone like Nocta really floundered, going to so many different heroes to try to adapt to Virtus Pro. But that's what I like about Reason. They are not afraid to swap up their compositions and swap up their strategist lines, whether it's double or even triple, or worst case, you can have your duelist who's not so having a hot day going to that third strategist like an Adam, which we saw Reason Gaming do if you just need that extra forgiveness in some of these fights.
So many interesting compositions that we can see come out from Central Park. That's why it's one of my favorite convergence maps that we have seen. But these teams are going to give it their all. I mean, Reason Gaming must win for them, of course. If they get this, they're not guaranteed to make playoffs, but it makes it that much easier for them, especially against the rest of the competition. And RAD, again, they want to secure their playoff berth, and getting the win here guarantees them that. So they don't want to go down. They don't want to be questioning their positioning, especially because of how strong the other side of the bracket will be from them, from Group A as well. And you talked about it, like, the Mantis, definitely going to be a priority. A big thing to notice here, too, RAD are playing on attack. Every time we've gone to, like, a convoy or convergence, typically they do opt for the attack side instead of the defending side, where we typically see that be a little bit of a difference from the strategy of other teams. And I think they just like setting the tempo in these games. But we do have map 2, Central Park for convergence about to go down. Reason versus RAD. Take it into it.
Okay, there it is again. The early protect on the Mantis Lemon. And this is, once again, potentially, like, RAD have to make a choice here. Do we ban the Ultron first, or do we try and get rid of the Elsa now? Because if there's one thing that's worse than a double-pocketed Phoenix, it's a double-pocketed Elsa. And they know that quite well.
And maybe a happy Groot that'll get the Mantis as well. But this is a different also duelist line for for Reason when it comes to this map. It was a rude awakening for Simba to have to face Virtus Pro, the #1 team in the world, on Central Park. So now we may see even a different result having their more core members join us, especially with how warmed up Ballas was from the first map.
I expect to see an Ultron ban here. Maybe from both sides, to be honest. You do not want to deal with Ultron Mantis on the other side, given that we have seen now the attempt at the RAD mirroring this. This is going to make sure that perhaps a Vanguard Deadpool can go through. You can see that there's really a lot of deliberation. The Vanguard Deadpool gets banned away. So now Reason, I imagine they're just going to protect the Ultron to continue playing this double boost comp that is going to get, especially if we see Ballas on something like a Human Torch. If I had to pick the best Human Torch in this lobby, I think I'd be looking at either Smashnez or Crazy Kitty. They both have fantastic torches. Maybe Smashnez just about ekes it out in the Torch versus Torch. So for RAD, if they can secure themselves the Ultron here, that might be an option, as we saw, what's him was a Shikigami got one over on Na'Vi on Central Park previously, playing that triple flyer composition.
I love Central Park, exactly that, because of so many of the unique compositions that can come out just for even that point defense, and how teams are even adapting compositions depending on what part of the map you are on. And we'll end on a Ultron protect there. But yeah, so many flyers, whether it's the Torch, the Angelus, even the best of teams can suffer against some really niche compositions. But I'm looking forward to see the resurgence of the Vanguards on the RAD side. No Torch, you don't get to see a Torch ban every day.
You'll need a top-notch
You know what? That's very much a Smashnez respect, I think. Like when you're going up against Ballas, like, you want to try and make sure that you don't have to deal with a Torch versus Torch, because I think Torch is probably the best air-to-air duelist that we have in our roster at the moment, being able to get in close to those flame clusters and just absolutely decimate a larger hitbox of someone like an Iron Man. As we roll out, though, this is definitely where NA is going to get a screen grab of our protector. Like, EMEA's off the goop, bro. They're taking the whimsy juice. They're getting silly over there.
But everyone should be taking notes on EMEA, okay? Because best region, we have the #1 team, so we're better, and we will not be arguing further. But we will be looking at the recent gaming defensive composition, of course, the triple strat, and also DRP on something not Magneto. Is it real? Because DRP was so good at commanding the space, and I think was a huge reason at breaking down the strat line of RAD. But what's great about the Groot, as a fellow Groot main, is how you control the real estate. If you can block off some of these heals too, and of course with the ult charge nerf, Groot's ultimates are just going to get more bang for your buck. So I'm really excited to see DRP on something that's not Mag.
Yeah, those groups with the healing walls as well are going to be able to give away some miscellaneous sustain to the remainder of the team as well. So maybe you don't have to have so much of your Mantis's resources and spores used to keep the team topped up, and instead can just dedicate them all to damage boost to make sure Nocta can get some as well.
RAD have Lugia back on the Hulk. I like this soft pressure on the high ground and make sure that Ballas isn't going to be off angling on you. And you could even pair up with the Magneto, but you got a Bucky. These neutral pulls are huge, and RAD can go in.
Oh, Smashnez. Seeing that they're backed up against a Thorn Lash wall as well just means even more damage, and there was good homework done there as well. Breaking down the Ironwood wall, making sure that DRP did not have that immunity. DRP is going to try and portal back for a quick recontest here, but so many members are quite far away. It's going to be difficult to make the re-engage work. Out comes the Magneto first. It's a pixel-perfect teleport, by the way. Just about have the cover on that back point, giving everyone else time to commute back onto the point itself. However, grabbed up quickly, DRP. Everyone is learning to fear the Winter Soldier of Smash This. It's an old meta, Lemon, but it checks out.
And it's great in these neutral fights. You gotta applaud this fight. All to Smash. He's an absolute menace cleaning up the fight. And the fact that you didn't even get to see that first cycle of ultimates. Almost that strangling prison. Almost that invisible boundary. A lot of good sustain here on the side of RAD to be able to build momentum. But I want to see rather those ultimates come out near the end of the point. Because now this defensive corner is going to be stronger for Reason Gaming if they can even establish. And it looks like RAD are not going to let them sleep.
All right, Vertigo given the Gamma barrier there for a little bit of additional protection. That's something that you are going to see really be something brought off the table. We're seeing a Moon Knight come out of Nocta as well. In comes the hands of Khonshu directly onto the invisible boundary. Smashers managed to move their way through it. Triple heals from Triple Strategist certainly is more than enough to try and survive what's been brought their way. But Nocta is at least going to be able to buy all of this space back and give a little bit of a more aggressive posture to Reason and stop RAD's momentum in their tracks.
And Moon Knight is such a good counter to a Loki when you can distribute all that damage amongst the clones and amongst this stack that is RAD. But looks like Lugia is done with your business. Is going to go and bully the front line. Actually has the disengage because he dropped the half health so soon. Looking for the strangling prison here for RAD as he survived not only the Venom ult, but a punished Passivo as a result.
Nocta almost has yet another hand of Khonshu. Not much to try and enable it at this point. They're Reason Gaming without Passive, just giving over so much space. Two strategists ultimates to try and play with, waiting for DRP to drop the shield. The timing's perfect as the hand of Khonshu once again drops. All in to try and take out Lugia. But guess what? They're just straight into their strategist ultimates to try and keep themselves sustained. Quick copy. It's going to be the God of Mission. Mash falls midway through. How did that happen? Unbelievable target focus from Reason Gaming right there. What a beautiful play.
Reason Gaming can shed so much time off the clock too. With having this high ground advantage, it's actually very hard for RAD to be able to see the strategist, to see who could be on the top of that hill. So you get this natural advantage for Reason Gaming along with the high ground that someone like Ballas will be able to output damage on. Then there's the mini game of dealing with the Ankh from Nocta. When is that hand of Khonshu going to rain down on such a small lane like on this map? So RAD have invested so much. All they have is sustain with the invisible boundary, but depending on how that's placed, you may be able to exclude some vulnerable members from the fight or force them into an engagement they're not ready for.
Look how Passivo gets bubbled on the way out of their soft dives as well, just to make sure that you aren't going to see one of those Seijiro-style pulls already. Lugia falling low when it comes to this damage. Balance is just absolutely pounding with the Phoenix flares here. Out comes the hand of Khonshu. Crazy Kitty has to try and flee away, and Nocta's going to be punished for that. The slowing effect of the invisible boundary was absolutely critical to make sure that they are going to be taken down, but Smash Snares out-aimed in this case by Ballas, the young aiming prodigy, showing why they are one of the top duelist prospects in all of the EMEA. Looking towards the back, many strategists put together. Passivo is going to try and figure out a frag from the back of it after Seijiro needs to be escorted away. Leap interrupted by a fully charged Mad Cannon, and Lugia has no hope of surviving whilst in the middle of Reason.
Reason Gaming stall out yet another fight. The Ensong Inferno RAD are just barely escaping from this fight, but strangling prison with no answer from Reason Gaming. So look for Ducky to really set the tone for this fight. You could also just surge ahead with the Soul Resurgence from Crazy Kitty. See what you can get from there. So much sustain for RAD, but they gotta get to that finish line, and you gotta put Reason Gaming's backs against the wall.
This time, Mash copying over Soul Resurgence. Not keen on being fragged out of this one yet again, but DRP takes to the skies. 19 charge on the Meteor M. Once Crazy Kitty takes them down. The second they start with Soul Resurgence. It's perfect, but it's stuck in him on the other side. Many players dragged on in. The extra damage is there from Vertigo to confirm the frag onto Nocta, but Seijiro's getting one of their own. Passivo in towards the back. Mash found in the rubble. Might be turned to bricks themselves here as they're actually breaking it while being followed around by Passivo. Vertigo just have to play for their own life right here. Ballas has their soul pulled from their body by the force physics, and it's just going to be the vanguards now of Reason Gaming doing their best to play out for the timepiece of the Abyss. Nocta's already tried to soften them up using the hands of Khonshu, but the counterfire here from Lugia Go's getting some real value, and Seijiro's already gone down. It's not without its trade. Ducky places themselves in the corner. A little army of walls, a safety space, a safe space for the group, yes, but it's not going to be a safe space on the point. DRP, the second they get on there to contest it, is gunned on down by the Phoenix. Smashers has finally returned, and he's back with a vengeance. It seems RAD have found their man, they've found their chance, but they've taken their time to do it. Only 30 seconds remain before they get the flip.
And Ducky has found his place in these fights. Beautiful walls to really force Reason through these pseudo choke points. And Vertigo, who's able to place a forward invisible boundary to really solidify Rad's position. And Reason Gaming had passed you, maybe harassed on the backline, but Rad stayed focused, and they focused on dealing with the remaining Vanguards on the front so they can get this payload towards the end of point B. But still 90 seconds. That was a very considerably strong defense from Reason Gaming. And now it's time for the Strangling Prison.
An ambitious beginning. 2 walls brought on up. The healing's good enough, though. Great response coming through from Sejuro to bring up that invisible boundary. It's going to be the hand of Khonshu in the back. Definitely a little bit targeted. Doesn't hit that many players. And the rest of RAD now with the speed boost given over by Crazy Kitty say, okay, you want to use your ultimates? We'll just claim all of this space as you didn't put anything in front of us and stop us from moving forward.
Only a minute left, and Reason Gaming, they feel desperate. They're throwing down some healing, and RAD have them exactly where they want. The card almost towards the end, halfway to this point, and RAD have built up towards another cycle of ultimates. Reason Gaming are trying to keep their heads above water, and RAD are drowning them.
Oh, the timing could be good. Yes, it is. The corrosive detonation burns away Kit Kat, and now low on healing. Low on survivability. It's got to be DRP eating up some of this incoming damage. Smash is just destroyed underneath the double ultimates, but the damage has been done. Reason Gaming, only scraps remain. The Venoms claim the space as well. They can't touch the point, and Dracula's castle is breached by Rad's offense.
So much panic from the Reason Gaming side. Talked about the hand of Khonshu that was supposed to maybe section the strategist of RAD away from the rest, but if anything, it just gave inspiration for RAD to move forward with their Soul of Resurgence. They had Reason Gaming stuck in their castle, and then RAD kept investing. Reason Gaming got so panicky, so desperate, they just used ults as soon as they had them, and we both like kind of held our pearls when Kit Kat brought the Eternal Bond, when I didn't think Reason Gaming were ready for a fight, but that looked more of like a stability or stabilization decision, and Reason Gaming had respawn advantage, so I think they could have slowed things down, try to have a full reset, because the payload still had quite a bit of time left before it got to the end. But Reason Gaming just need a strong leader to calm people down in those moments, because now a full cap on this map is so difficult to do, and at 26 seconds for RAD, Reason Gaming, they have a lot ahead of them.
All right, with Nocta moving back over onto the Ultron here, I think I may have preferred Nocta to move over onto the Mantis. Just give Ballas a little bit of additional survivability as well as damage boost. I don't think the Moon Knight in the end got a huge amount of value, but it did at least make MASH a little bit easier to get rid of.
So much extra damage. Like, it felt like, yeah, you had Hand of Khonshu like every fight. Ult nerf where? Like, Moon Knight is still farming those. But I also really appreciated Ducky being back on one of his best heroes and how he was able to box out the fight. And he'll be able to box out Reason Gaming on the approach. So look to how Reason Gaming are going to get around that. When you have Emma, though, on DRP, will be able to sustain himself with a shield or even the diamond form. And he's wrestling a Venom on the high ground there.
Actual perfect regeneration domain there from MASH, using the vertical hitbox to make sure that Lugia could get out after being pulled by Seijiro, the old classic. Up comes the big wall. However, it's going to be survived here. DRP manages to slip away with their svelte hitbox, and Ducky just playing it very cautiously right now. Doesn't want to try and expose themselves. Potentially could be grabbed here by a carbon crush, and indeed it is going to be the case. Doesn't quite get the CC immunity in time, but DRP can't escape the auspicious shots of Smash Nares, and it's not going to be quite so lucky for Paso either. Without their Emma, Reason Gaming just going to be forced to poke away.
Yeah, I don't think this Emma can keep going for those aggressive grabs, and there's going to be some changes to that comp. But Ducky's walls have done exactly what it's supposed to do. It's sectioned off the Vanguards from Reason Gaming, away from their strategist. DRP didn't get help, and they're going to need even more help after the Strangling Prison.
Oh, two squishies stuck within those small health bars. Can't stand up to even regular fire. And I like that Rads here, they didn't invest much more than they needed to. They just sent in the singular ultimate early, claiming the initiative.
Reason Gaming now to the Moon Knight to take advantage of this giant stack that is forming at the front of this choke point to see if you can maximize damage, because that's what Reason Gaming really need right now. Follow up to the setup that DRP and Passivo have, and you're gonna have the Feast of the Abyss. Maybe get some of these health bars low, but with how spread Rad are, it may be hard to get enough targets going.
Oh, it's perfect onto Crazy Kitty. And now Passivo can possibly follow up with the Smash Nest as well. Force out the Ensong Inferno for that quick health reset. And Passivo doesn't want to try and go down onto that yet. Towards the back. Oh, fades out of existence. But Nocta decided to go back into the realms of reality by firing out their crescent darts. Smash Nest got a great angle here. Onto Balance. Opens up with a headshot, but the turnaround is real. And there is going to be a huge amount of pocket here onto Smash Nest. It's going to make sure that it's difficult for Passivo to try and confirm this one. I think we might have actually seen Lugia go not get too much off the back of that Feast of the Abyss. The counter dive's going to be there, but the Venoms are traded. Reason Gaming now have to make a choice. Are we willing to go forward without our Venom, knowing he's going to be back rather quickly? Ballas needs so much support on this off angle, but now we're starting to see that Mantis stiff that we constantly saw over on Domination, where it's so hard to try and set up to these ones. Nocta sends in the hands of Khonshu, but I don't think it's the ideal position for the group. Oh, and they can't convert onto it. Kit Kat needs to make something happen off the back of the Eternal Bond, and Ballas doesn't find anything on the other side either. Ducky might be the final note in this song as they send down the impenetrable prison of Groot. Ballas holds them at the door, and Nox has fallen down as well. It's too messy for Reason. They can't execute on their plans.
Oh, and Rad also doubled up on Straddles. You had the Soul Resurgence and the Invisible Boundary. You finally had Rad floundering, but Reason just extended too far and weren't able to really focus on the objective and focus around. You can control the space with the Groot. It's not really an attacking type of Vanguard, but more one that can defend so well. And last-minute swaps for Reason Gaming, mainly trying to get a portal for one last touch, or it will be a full hold, and it will be a map 3 coming up.
Passivo for now demanding attention. Buying time and space for the portal. Crazy Kitty again going to be the primary recipient of all of that damage that's coming on in. But most of the damage is going to be pouring out of Smash Nest here. Once again, that damage boost onto the door is just doing so much. And it feels like for Reason Gaming, they haven't learned too much off the back of their previous play. What a bank, what a turn for Tokyo Drift. But this time it's in New York. And Smash Nest is going to be drifting them forward towards a victory. Yeah, Ballas wins their duel, but it's too little. It's too late. Reason Gaming cannot breach the first parapet of the castle.
No umbrella and no bucket of water is saving you from Phoenix being able to be so far away and so inaccessible. And Passivo did so much for Reason Gaming, but the Ducky Wall's easy MVP for me. You cannot let this guy ever have a Groot again. The walls were impenetrable. They sectioned the strategist off. The strangling prisons, of course, with the end song Inferno made it for an easy win condition for Rad. And not just a statement, but domination coming out of Rad to get back on their own 2 feet after what the experience on Krakoa.
Wait, Ducky 27-0. Get this man his GOAT suffix. We need Lugia Go and Ducky Go. That is an unbelievable line from the Groot, who doesn't really have means of like disengaging from a bad fight. You know, if things are going wrong, the Groot's going to be one of the first to go down. What a fantastic bit of survivability from Ducky to constantly be pushing out this threat as well, because he was getting stuck in with 25k damage.
Just a little bit too much rushing from Reason Gaming. I would have liked Sejuro's Invisible Boundary near the end to be more forward so they can even just start to creep up to the first half of the objective. And the first time that you had Rad floundering where they doubled up on Straddles, you had finally Reason Gaming presence on the point, but they overextended so far instead of just playing off of their own Groot walls, giving Ducky a taste of his own medicine. But just Reason Gaming got too antsy to chase eliminations that they maybe didn't even really need at that point, or at least the risk did not pay off.
Yeah, I think that we also saw like great credit to Rad here, realizing when they saw the competition coming out from Reason Gaming. If you're looking at both a Groot and a Moon Knight, they played very split in these 2-2-2s to make sure that there was never going to be a full team wipe off the back of a Strangling Prison and Hand of Khonshu combo. The old Season 1.5 meta could have shown its face, but those splits meant that Nocta was never really able to get value out of a Hand of Khonshu. Sure, it was coming up a lot, but I don't think it was achieving that much when it was deployed.
And DRP went to the EMEA, but it just simply wasn't enough. All the changes, but no solution. We'll find out what the map will be for Reason Gaming after this.
Clear the way! Feel the pull! Disappear!
Well, back to business as usual for RAD Sport on that one, especially after a dominating performance that we witnessed from them. But the biggest thing, the biggest glaring issue I got to bring up here, the torch ban over banning either Groot or Loki. What are we doing here, Levin?
Just trying to face what you're at least familiar with. And who is familiar with Torch? I don't even blame that. I think you can make almost any composition work. It's about execution. I feel like Reason really lacked in communication, because when there's group walls that are sectioning your vanguards, you need to be able to communicate that. So I don't want to see my Emma in diamond form tackling people with no help, especially when the Venom is diving somebody else. You need your vanguards to be on the same page and to turn that aggression into more of a defensive stance when those ducky walls came out. But man, what a performance on Gru. We talk about torch bans, we need to talk about a group band coming up.
Exactly, and hopefully we do see something of that sort in the future for Reason Gaming. It looked pretty well for them, but again, I think the strategy of picking the attacking side for RAD has worked out time and time again, especially because they're able to lock in who they need so they don't get two bans against them like we saw earlier on. So a nice focus for them in map 2. We'll see what the shift is going to be for this next one. Museum of Contemplation, though, we were thinking maybe Midtown. We see that played from a lot of teams, but we've been seeing like so much more of this map, and a lot of teams feeling a lot more comfortable than they used to in the last season, especially during MRC for this one.
Yeah, Museum of Contemplation, it's it could be a very easy to full hold first point kind of map. We see a lot of first point holds here around these tight 90-degree angles. There are a couple of good flank routes, but it's not fantastic. Also, there are some great Jeff drop-off spots here. the potential, you know, little bit, get a bit of a
That was
jab.
good.
Yeah, that's great.
Wait, that was too good.
But what I really want to see here, if I'm being brutally honest with you guys, is I want to see Reason Gaming get some use out of their protects. Like, why are we protecting Ultron and Mantis and not playing them? That ain't on.
Yeah, well, we'll see which mix of compositions we have between these teams. Reason Gaming versus RAD, the final map of this best of 3. Who's going to take it? We'll find out now.
All right, let's get stuck in once again, Lemon, and see if we're going to have similar band draft to last time, because it seems like RAD were kind of drawn into the mystique, the temptations of the Ultron Mantis prior, and Reason Gaming, they're going to be sticking with this Mantis Protect. I pray that they actually play it.
And I was expecting a Midtown pick from Reason Gaming because that was what they had picked last time, or of course Central Park, which we just saw, but it did not go so well against Vision. So we have never seen Museum of Contemplation from either of these teams. So this is going to be especially cooked up by Reason Gaming, who I think can continue to depend on Ballast, for example, or people like that to carry through, but also to give him enough resources. But I think it's been a big difference of Vanguards, if I'm honest, not in terms of the choices, which no Deadpool, no surprise, but the really the controlling of the real estate based on the Vanguards.
Okay, once again, Loki off the table. The question is RAD going to mirror this one? Like, I wouldn't mind seeing Mash's Loki taken off the table. Indeed, that is going to be the case. This also stops Nocta from falling into the Moon Knight noob trap, like, oh, they've got guys, they've got Loki, I'm gonna play Moon Knight. And while it does have its places, especially in like spawn break scenarios, we're not, oh, surely there's going to be an Ultron ban now. If Ultron's not protected, and there is going to be a Deadpool, oh, maybe you try and ban the Jeff here. Oh, they're going to allow the Ultron to go through. Very interesting. Instead, getting rid of Seijiro's potential to pull, which has actually been very, very problematic for Lugia on these Venom engages. Maybe that's going to give Lugia a lot more room to work with.
And someone like Nocta has been relied upon as that third strategist when things get a bit hectic. And I could see him pulling out the Jeff once again, which is kind of a weird one to throw in your duelist hero pool, but especially with these long lanes on Museum of Contemplation, that healing is going to be great. But would love to see just a natural 2-2-2, because I think that's so much pressure on someone like Ballast to try and carry every single fight, especially if he's going to get dove on, if dive will be even on the menu. A lot of people are preferring more of the Death Ball Brawl when it comes to Museum of Contemplation, but we'll see what everybody ends up on. And this is match point, everybody, to see if RAD can qualify, or will Reason try to climb up in the standings.
Okay, Lugia, as expected, once again going to be showing off that Venom, and it is going to be a lot safer without having to deal with those force physics. Vertigo, on the other hand, does have access to that, but Passivo is not going to be in a position where the force physics is as much of a problem, because they're going to be playing with Vanguard Deadpool here, appearing for the first time in the series after being banned out almost ubiquitously thus far.
The setups, Ducky has ruined lives, okay, on that Central Park, and looking forward to see him do it again. This is more of an open door to get through, metaphorically and physically. But so excited to see more Psylocke too. Usually like to throw that with a Jeff for the extra speed, but at a distance, you may need the speed to try and close the gap against Rad's defense.
Oh, Lugia feeling the bravery here, can stay in for so long without that force to try and deal with them. What the Vanguard Deadpool is going to bring to the fight here definitely is a lot more wall break on the Groot using those Dual Desert Eagles.
Reason Gaming need to just force their way through this, but also not ignore those Groot walls. You don't want to just get damaged for no reason, and keep an eye on where Nocta's going. And Smash, he's sharp.
And honestly, like, once again, we're seeing the Mantis not really deployed by Reason after the first fight. This team does tend to have a little bit of a panic after fight number 1 and instantly swap a bunch of their stuff around. On the other side, Mash is just thriving, living his best life. Ducky has to try and fly away as quickly as possible, but easily gets healed back up to full by the triple strategist. And DRP and Passivo are just eating so much damage as Crazy Kitty has a bunch of safety from which to spout those Encephalo rays.
I think Reason Gaming just needs someone to follow up with Nocta, whether it's a Venom that swings in, whether it's a Jeff that can give speed. It's, yeah, the flake from a Luna Snow is great and all, but Deadpool's not someone who's just going to be running it down. He's more someone that can add to the damage. Strangling Prison, though. Oh, my God.
Oh, instantly gets 3. This one is instantly cooked for Reason. They're just going to be trying to fly away as fast as possible.
And Reason Gaming are still stuck in spawn. Half the time bank left, and you have some good ultimates coming up, but you need to be focusing down that Groot in these walls. You cannot be ignoring the Groot like this. And Lugia, as soon as you focus the other Vanguard, he's going to come diving in your backline.
Oh, that's a lot of charge straight away into the Meteor M. DRP takes matters into her own hands, taking down 2. Ducky's disengagement here is going to be well covered as it's wall after wall being put up behind them. The 3 strategists will survive, none of whom were forced to invest their ultimates in this one, but Ducky's disengagement path is a little bit apart from the rest.
Reason Gaming. Hey, getting out of spawn is the first step to victory, okay? And look at Reason Gaming are commanding that space, and they got the picks too.
Oh, this is a very early usage of the invisible boundary as well. I guess he's going to be forcing themselves into it. Kit Kat moves forward with the Eternal Bond to claim all of this space as you roll on forward. Yeah, you've taken care of the main damage in the form of Ballast. But Seidra still has options here. Has access to the Fate of Both Worlds, coming in with the dual katanas going up to the sky. The Ensong Inferno drops down on the backline and Seidra is detonated. Doesn't even use their own ultimate to try and survive this one. And Mash sees an opportunity. Smells blood in the water, and so the Mantis shall strike into the hearts of Reason. And they are floundered just before being able to complete their cap.
Reason Gaming just weren't able to keep that stranglehold. You had RAD on the back foot. You had them using invisible boundary like almost near spawn. Like you really had RAD panicking. But the Soul Resurgence, that last kick, giving Reason a kick to the bucket. But wait, you have Lugia taking initiative.
Oh, that's so many players inside of a strangling prison. Needs to be answered by Valona, but still they grab Kit Kat. Only a single. Mash is a madman. The accuracy is just off the charts right now. That was through a Fate of Both Worlds. Oh, the strategists are just going crazy right now. Call that an unexpected item in fragging area.
Oh, I wish Pasuo, if we all say a prayer, maybe Pasuo will go on the Venom, but somebody has to go on the Strange to portal in. One last hurrah for Reason Gaming, and they need to just all in on this RAD backline. You just can't sustain through this. The poke of RAD has just been too strong, especially with the Mantis, which now all swapped up RAD are going to have their final stand.
Lugia the Predator lies in wait, knocked around the back 69% towards ultimate, wins out against Mash. A critical pick, gets rid of some of the healing, but you need to try and get rid of the Strange as well. Someone needs to tag in onto a point. Nocta gets taken down by Smashnez. What is this accuracy, blood? Man is gunning them down in the streets.
The mechanics from RAD is what makes them so well known in this group. Yet another full hold. And at least doing it at the beginning this time. So Reason Gaming are going to be quite behind, and the win condition is set for RAD. And just fantastic spacing from the defense to be able to sit so far back and really force Reason Gaming to have to rotate into cover. But there's only so much cover on Museum of Contemplation. I like the effort that Nocta had. Finally, you had some teammates that could follow through with them. But I think a Venom would have really added more to this dive, and we saw just how impactful Pasuo was in the past with that Venom. But Reason Gaming will have to have pretty much a perfect defense playing that first corner, and if they give that up, maybe they'll have a second fight for the end of the map. But Reason Gaming, you're on your last life.
Well, maybe there might be a second life here, courtesy of Nocta. The Adam Warlock Karmic Revival is going to be one of the main hallmarks of this defense. Question is, if it's going to come on through, how's it going to be answered by RAD in the second stage of a fight, or how many ultimates can be forced in the prelude to the resurrection? It's going to be all about long-term planning here from Reason Gaming, as once again, they're putting all of their cards into the Ballast deck.
DRP guarding that front door as the Magneto that he is so well known for. Reason Gaming, they have ways to peel for any kind of dive that comes their way. Look out for the sleeps from Seijuro and Kit Kat, who can try to help them fade away from their problems. RAD is looking to section off this Magneto, possibly with a Groot wall, and to have Lugia with enough space to dive in, and DRP also has to peel, but not forget what's in front of him.
Yeah, Lugia doesn't even have to exit that quickly if he doesn't want to. And Crazy Kitty on this Wolverine is definitely going to make sure that you are constantly at threat of this happening. DRP has to use their own bubble to avoid the incoming Feral Leap, but the damage is already done. Walled off. It's perfect execution to get rid of the first of those Vanguards. A big grab onto Ballast. Before we can even hit the ground, the Dark Depredations of Lugia have managed to find their man. And Wolverine's going to be attempted to shut down on the Wolverine. Crazy Kitty didn't hear no bell. And those adamantine claws tear through Deadpool's flesh in record time. Should be a quick re-engage here off the back of DRP's portal. But already they've lost out on Kit Kat. A bunch of healing's going to be gone. Ballast turns up on the Daredevil, but Justice is blind. And so too are RAD when you're consulting with Mercy. Passimo will stand alone. The purple's there. The damage boost too. Oh, why not just fly it through the portal for a little coup de grace? And RAD domineer on the Museum of Contemplation.
And that will qualify them for the playoff bracket. Big congratulations to RAD and Reason Gaming for denting the armor, the very shiny main character plot armor of RAD on that first domination. But Ducky with back-to-back MVPs, it's, I think, a huge strength of RAD to have as good of Vanguards as they do. Whether it's how pivotal the dives from Lugia have been for Ducky to just cause so much chaos with how he splits up these fights. And of course, RAD's poke, the way that when you have strong Vanguards, you have happy duelists, you have happy strategists that can basically play in Narnia and just poke everybody down, which Reason Gaming tried a bit of a dive without the Venom. Of course, now Passimo was on the Venom, but too little, too late, in my opinion.
Bro, Ducky 2 maps, 0 casualties. It's bonkers.